Back here on CBS Sports HQ, before we look ahead to the 2025 football season, which we already kind of are, but let's go back and reflect, and let's look at the AFC West, shall we? So we're going to look at free agency and the draft and give out grades for each team. So in KC, we know they got to protect Patrick Mahomes. We saw Joe Thuney leave. They addressed some of that in the draft. As far as the Chargers, we're still trying to see if we can see Justin Herbert tap into his full potential. The Raiders, a lot of change there, paying Max Crosby, getting Ashton Genty, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, all of that change. But still, the AFC West runs through the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have won 9 straight division titles from 2016 to 2024. Second most all-time, only behind, of course, the Patriots, who have 11. Let's welcome in Mike Renner and Leger Douzable, and we're going to have Mike give his grades, and then Leger, you're going to react, tell us your thoughts, your feelings on all of it. We're starting with the Chiefs, and as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you always have a chance. And we saw some issues with the O-line last season. This team still went on to go to the Super Bowl. In the offseason, they lose Joe Thuney, tag Trey Smith. In terms of the draft, they pick up Josh Simmons. So what is the grade with all that in mind and more, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's a B- sort of offseason. I think this team at this moment in time is probably worse for what they lost, right? Joe Thuney was a Pro Bowl guard a season ago for you. Turk Wharton was your only other guy providing interior pressure and probably the only guy who really showed up in that Super Bowl at defensive tackle there. And then Justin Reed was your best safety, probably the second best player in that secondary a season ago. So those are big losses that don't necessarily have easy guys to fill those roles. But I liked what they did in free agency, some budget signings, and Christian Fulton, who I think is an upgrade at cornerback position, Jalen Moore, who gives you at minimum a better play than you had at last season from Kingsley Suamataia there on the left side. So I think those were all like kind of nets out to a net negative. And their draft, it really just hinges on, can Josh Simmons play this season? If the Ohio State offensive tackle with the patellar tendon tear is fully healthy, he is one of the best offensive linemen in this draft class. But that's a big if with an injury like that doesn't have a great track record of success of guys coming back and being their former selves. So that to me is it, is that does this offensive line gel? Do these new additions play well early on? If they do, you know, it's a great offseason because they really weren't in the cap situation to add more talent. But if they don't, yeah, they could be taking a step back from that championship form.
And let's not also forget Rashee Rice is coming off a knee injury where he looked really good in the opening week last year versus the Baltimore Ravens. Looked like he was going to be a true #1 receiver. Xavier Worthy, his second year, you think entrusted or thrust into this offense would be a lot better. I hear what you're saying about Tershawn Wharton, but I love what they did in the second round, right? Getting a guy like Omar Norman Lott, who has a similar skill set to Deshaun Warren, who could really pair nicely with Chris Jones in regards to getting after the quarterback. But like you said, Mike, the big question, Josh Simmons, will he be healthy enough to potentially participate in football this year is a question to start the season. Obviously, they went and got Jalen Moore from San Francisco to try to be that heir apparent at left tackle. But I think Josh Simmons, if he's healthy, could push their right tackle, Jawan Taylor, for starting position at the right tackle position. It would be a major upgrade. So I like the B-.
Yeah, it's a B- from Mike Renner for the Chiefs and their offseason moves. Let's talk about the Raiders because there's a lot of new there, right? They have a new head coach in Pete Carroll, a new quarterback in Geno Smith, a new running back via the draft in Ashton Genty, and then, of course, they still pay one of their main staples in Max Crosby. Mike, how do you assess all of the moves that we've seen when it comes to Las Vegas?
I think they had one of the better off seasons around the NFL. And it comes down to adding a quarterback, adding a guy who's a real franchise quarterback. Maybe he's not a top 5 guy in the NFL, but compared to what Raiders fans have seen of late, you know, since Derek Carr left or even late seasons of Derek Carr there, this is going to be like night and day. It's going to be a massive upgrade for them. And they already had a budding offensive line there. I think down the stretch you saw it with Sincere McCormick running behind that offensive line that it could actually be effective. And now you have even an upgrade over Sincere McCormick. You have what should be one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL in Ashton Genty. That's how good I felt about him as a prospect. And he goes to a great situation to succeed there. So I love this offseason. It's an A- just because you lost a lot from that defense. You know, Trayvon Merrick, Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, Nate Hobbs, and you didn't have a great secondary to begin with, but I think they'll make up for that by getting Christian Wilkins back healthy, re-signing Malcolm Kuntz, who should be back healthy now. That defensive line should be one of the best in the NFL, so the secondary will play better because of that.
Mike, I love that you went and attacked this team in the trenches because that's where they got a lot better. You talked about it in regards to their defense, right? Mad Max Crosby's coming off an injury, but I've seen some videos already with him participating with the team. He looks like he'll be 100%. Christian Wilkins coming back. Adam Butler re-signing him as well. And I love that you talked about the young offensive line because for some odd reason, people think the Raiders don't have a good young offensive line, which they actually do. So I think Ashton Jeanty was the perfect pick. We know Pete Carroll's mantra. He wants to run the ball effectively. You got Geno Smith, who's back with Pete Carroll. There's some synergy there. And I love what they did in the second round with adding Jack Betts from TCU. He's going to be a guy that really destroys the middle of the field. I like this A grade for them. I would give him A as well, too.
All right, let's go to the Chargers. And we sort of saw the Harbaugh effect, right, in the turnaround last season. Joey Bosa, he is gone. Got to get used to seeing Najee Harris in a Chargers uniform. But, Mike, where are you at on the Chargers and what they've done in the offseason?
I did not love what they've done. In an arms race now that is the AFC West, where the Broncos got a lot better, the Raiders got a lot better, I think the Chargers got worse, truthfully, with the additions or I guess the losses they had this offseason. Joey Bosa walking out the door, a franchise legend. Yeah, he couldn't stay healthy, but obviously you would rather have him on that roster than not on the roster. Christian Fulton walking out the door. Poona Ford walking out the door. One of your best defensive tackle additions a year ago was such an upgrade for that defensive tackle position. Now they're really hurting at that position. You're relying on a rookie third rounder to be your savior there. And Jamari Caldwell, easier said than done coming into the NFL. Josh Palmer, not a huge loss, but backfilling that, Mekhi Becton, the offensive line, the running game should be great. I have no doubt about that. But I worry about this defense being able to uphold the form that was a top 5 defense a year ago. A lot of smoke and mirrors. I just don't think they have the horses coming through that door anymore. And in this division, it's going to get tough.
Well, you have to remember, Mike, last year, right, they didn't have this star power when it came to that defense, and that was still a top 5 defense for majority of the year. So you have to trust in the system. I'm with you, though, as far as up front on the defensive line. They lost too many pieces and didn't supplement those pieces as well. But I really love what they did on the offense. They solidified the guard position with Mekhi Becton and Omarion Hampton to pair with Najee Harris. We know Jim Harbaugh's mantra. He's going to be physical and run the football. So they may run the ball 30 times a game, Mike. They're going to try to beat guys into submission. You see Omari Hampton right there. The first guy never brings him down. Great contact balance. He's also going to help in pass protection. He's one of the best pass protecting backs in this draft class. So really love what they did on offense. I hear your concerns on defense, but just got to go back to last year when they didn't have the star power on that defense. Their defense still played at a high level. So I know you gave them a C. I think I would have gave them at least a B-.
Okay, and finally, let's talk about the Broncos. Mike, I know you said the Broncos got better. You gave them an A+. What did you love about what they did in the offseason? That's the highest grade that we're seeing in this division from you.
This was the best offseason in the NFL, in my opinion. You already had the top-ranked defense in EPA per play. You added to that Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, and Jahdae Barron. You added 3 massive pieces to the back end of this defense, and then a couple guys who I think fit in great onto the defensive line in Q Robinson and Savion Jones, too. So I think that this defense is electric, and then you're just hoping Bo Nix takes a step forward. So if that all comes to fruition, I mean, they could challenge for that division crown if this defense takes a step forward into pure dominance.
Mike, I'm so glad you ended your statement by saying that because that was going to be my first statement. I believe they will push the Kansas City Chiefs for that divisional crown. You talked about it. This was one of the top defenses in football. They led the nation in sacks last year, and then they got better in the secondary with Jahdae Barron. Now, the biggest thing and concern for them is can guys stay healthy? Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Alex Singleton, all have dealt with injuries coming off of last season. Can those guys stay healthy? You hope that Bo Nix takes a leap in another year in the Sean Payton offense. Evan Ingram is a guy he's going to be able to lean on in the middle of the field. And R.J. Harvey was the perfect back for Sean Payton, especially because they like to run a lot of G scheme with Quinn Miners pulling. Just imagine the patience that R.J. Harvey has, and then the explosive ability in the second level. I think he could push for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So watch out for the Denver Broncos. I believe they will push the Chiefs for the AFC West crown this year.
All right, Mike Leger, we certainly appreciate it as we grade the offseason moves for each team in the AFC West. Getting a look at Mike's grades again, an A+ for the Broncos. Both Mike and Leger on the same page there, thinking that they could seriously challenge the Chiefs in the division. The Raiders, Mike is giving them an A-. It's a B- for the Chiefs and a C for the Chargers.